Hello and welcome to week 2 of this anthology seminar series. And I've just been speaking with my gorgeous VA, Tai, about all of the resources that we've created for you since we started doing these weekly moments. You've got stuff about the writing strategy and how to write, how all the information you need on how to get published, how to write about really difficult subjects. Now we're delivering you a series about how to create an anthology if you're not really up for writing a whole book at once. People do think writing an anthology is an easier option. Yeah, it's not. It really isn't. So I'm just going to get on with it. This week is about authority, the influence, and becoming the key person of influence. And they are slightly different. So let's get cracking. So step one, just to give you a breakdown of what we're going to cover today, anthologies is about establishing yourself as a leader, and not just within the community of writers that you're working with and that you're leading, but also within your marketplace, within your sector, within your subject area. And making sure that you, as the curator of this, so I went into the difference between curator, convener, and co-author last week. So if you want to get some clarity on that, go back and watch that. But the curator becomes the reference point, and you're not just another contributor, as some people refer to it as, just another, or the others. I really don't like othering. But you become that reference point, not just for people outside of the book, but for people within the book that you're creating, but for the people that are writing with you, and for the people who are designing your artwork, that are doing the typesetting and the editing, the publisher. If you're not publishing it yourself, if you're not, then run it by me. I might like to publish a book. But you become this the anchor point that holds it all together. Obviously, I'm using a sailor analogy. And when I've listened to people talking about their anthologies, you hear them speaking to, the other contributors or the other authors, rather than saying things like my fellow authors or my fellow contributors. There's all that othering of those people. It really doesn't have a nice energy to it, but you are that point of reference, and you have to really hold everything together. And this is why I say anthologies are not always easy. You've got to deal with all of the energies and the egos. And as the one that's bringing it all together, you're holding space for everybody on your team. You are leading them. And if you're not willing to lead them and hold space for them and actually be there when they need you to be, because sometimes when they're writing their stories, it can be really challenging for them. They're looking for guidance. And this is why you need to really step up as a leader. Not just saying, well, this is how much it is for you to take part in my anthology. If you're charging people, these are how many words I want. It is about that nurturing, that community building, and you being that single focal point. You also need to be looking at the anthology as, well, what's the purpose of it? Is it to move you from an expert in your field, or is it for you to become that key person of influence? Now, there is a difference. Now, an expert is not always the key person of influence. They are somebody who has done a lot of that. What is it, 10,000 hours doing something and you're an expert in it? But that does not mean to say that that person is a key point of influence. It looks at your personality. If you might be an expert in it, but you may not be the person that everyone goes to, that people gather around. Now, I know that I am a key person of influence in quite a lot of areas. There are lots of people that go, you need to go speak to Dawn. And people do come and speak to me. People do refer me. But am I the key person of influence in my industry? There's a lot of people in the publishing industry. There's a lot of people who do not know who I am. There are people who have heard of me. And even when I was in Frankfurt, the International Book Fair, I walked along wanting to speak to this one particular woman about, finding out how I get involved. She goes, "Oh, you're Dawn Bates. Oh my God, it was so good." And I was like, okay, they know me. And it's still surprising to me the amount of people that know me or know of me, and want to speak to me, and I'm there and I go up to them, I really like to speak to this person, and da, 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 and then it can be quite nerve-wracking. It can knock you off your game for a second. But again, it's like, are you somebody who is known in other circles, but they just find you either unapproachable? Do they find that, they're a bit nervous about meeting you? I've had lots of people say to me, I was really worried about meeting you. I was really nervous. I wondered if you'd speak to me. I speak to a lot of people. I speak to trees. It's not saying that, I will speak to anybody. And I'm always welcoming. If your energy does give me some heebie-jeebies, though, I might be a bit, but 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, I will speak to people. If I'm reading a book, though, that's a different matter. Don't interrupt me, I'm reading. I'm a reader first, folks. But again, looking at where you see yourself, in this whole scope, are you writing the anthology to learn more from your co-author so you become more of an expert, or are you using it to position yourself as that key person of influence? Now, I am a key person of influence in the fact that, I have huge amounts of assets on social media, on the internet. You can type my name in and it goes back nearly 2 decades. I didn't realize I'd been on the internet that long. And you'll see all of my books, you'll see a lot of podcasts I've been on, you'll see some summits that I've been on, you'll find references to a lot of my articles that have been published around the world. So when you search me, you will find me. And that's what I mean about some people might feel intimidated by you because they see you and there's all this stuff out there, and you've won all these awards, but it's like, where do you see yourself? Do you really see yourself as a key person of influence, or are you seeking to become that next level of it? And it's about understanding what this anthology is going to do for you. And also looking at how it shapes your network, because once you do it, is it going to move you into a different field? Now, me doing the owning our ovaries, I've done the potent power of menopause. I do get a lot more inquiries from women now because they know, having read the books, that I'm actually aware of a lot more of the women's issues and more willing to speak out about some of the injustices, inequities, etc., and the traumas that we've been through as women than other female coaches that they coach women, but they're not willing to speak on stages about the real gritty stuff. For example, we've got the UN Women's Summit at the moment, the CSW 70, that's talking about trafficking and traumas and legislations. And there's a lot of reading involved. There's a lot of showing up and attending conferences, normally out of your normal work hours. Are you prepared to show up for that? Are you prepared to put yourself on an international stage? Are you willing to join an organization like the UN that might actually go against a lot of your ethics, but you want to get somewhere else? It's a stepping stone. It's a way of meeting other people to do greatness in the world. What is the book helping you to do? Is it helping you add credibility? Is it the first book you've ever done and you're just trying to ease your way in? Is it because you want to develop your leadership skills? You've got a lot of questions that you need to be asking yourself when you do an anthology. Hence why I'm giving you this free seminar. And when you're actually meeting other people and, they see that you've got a book, how many books, have got a title such as Owning Our Ovaries. It is a controversial title, apparently more controversial than I actually thought it was going to be. But that's okay. We like a bit of controversy. Well, I do. It means we're really shaking up the way that people are thinking. But when you write a book like that, you are going to be attracting a certain amount of people, or a certain type of person. And these people are either going to be loving you or they're going to be hating you. Now, when you look at the front cover of Owning Our Ovaries, you will see a nod to the suffragettes. You will see a nod to the universe, the cosmos. There's a nebula energy on there. So people that tap into that and actually see the metaphor of like the sword, where it's a steel spine with the softness of the feathers. So it actually really mirrors women. Now, when we did that, it was attracting certain women that could see beyond the obvious. It showcased the suffragette colours. So women who were into women's rights and the fight for women, not the angry feminists. I'm going to obviously put those off, and the women that are really woke, that are, but that's a different session. So it really does attract. So when you're putting it together, and this is why I mean, when you're looking at how you're putting it together, who do you want to be attracting? Who are you calling in with this anthology? The women that you're choosing, or the gentlemen, or both the men and the women that you're choosing to be part of this anthology. What networks are they introducing you to? What sectors of the community or parts of the world are they introducing you to? Because you become a center of influence in different areas, because especially if you work with someone like me to publish the book or coach you through it, because if you're going to write a book these days, it's always a good idea to make sure it's as culturally diverse and international as possible, because once that book goes on sale, you are meeting people, and it's gone global. So if you've got authors from around the world, you are going to be introduced to networks that you've never heard of, or you've never been put in front of before, because you are the curator of it. You are the person who is leading it. So be prepared for that. And select the people that are going to be writing with you carefully. Because if you don't want to be connected to some of the people in their network, or the kind of people that they're attracting, why do you want them in your book in the first place? Then we're going to be going on to, I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent, but one of the things that we've got here is the curating other people's thinking and increasing your credibility. Because when you look at other people's stories that they're sharing in your anthology, or people's expertise or viewpoints, or their different perspectives on things, you are needing to look at that. And this is where it brings into your critical thinking and your analysis skills. Because if you are just going to just chuck the stories in any old willy-nilly, you're not going to really create a great book. And it's about respecting the reader, but respecting the stories. You have to be able to make sure that these chapters all come together in a really harmonious way, not so that it's jarring and giving the reader whiplash. You really want to make sure that they flow and they build on each other. They give that counterbalance, that a different kind of energy. If you've got a really intense chapter, you want a really soothing one afterwards. But we're going to come on to that a little bit later, as well as in I think next week we're going to go into that a bit deeper. And again, it's about looking at the themes that you're bringing in from these people that are working with you on this book, because they are your co-authors. They're not just other authors. So let's just drop the other and another, just another. We don't like that. That's just not kind. And make sure that the theme that you're working on actually stands the test of time. So we're going to go into that as well. As I just said, the establishing yourself as a leader in your sector, it takes courage, because sometimes you're going to be asked to you're going to be asked questions that you're probably not ready for. You're going to be sat there on stages, or giving interviews, or invited onto TV. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but these are very, very possible opportunities that are going to come your way. And if somebody in your team or one of their networks reads your book or sees that you're doing it, and they work in TV or radio, or they work for a big conferencing events company, are you ready to go to that level of leadership? Or are you going to be a bag of nerves? You first got to establish a leader within yourself. It's not about being a leader within the anthology and in the wider sphere. It's about establishing that leader within yourself. Are you ready to lead yourself to greatness? Are you ready to lead yourself away from all that is not serving you? People talk about becoming a leader, but first you've got to become it inside. Because until you do that, then you're not really going to deliver real, true leadership for other people. And some people don't like to think of themselves as a leader because it's not humble or it's not, it's not modest, but it's struggling being modest. No, that's just being a bit daft. Why would you want to struggle? Why would you want to struggle? I just have to pop this in. I haven't had my mushroom gummies for a whole week. I now have them. So normal performance will resume, but I'm a bit at the moment because I need these gummies. They're amazing. Anyway, have to say that. Be real with your audience, be human with them, and be willing to show that, yeah, you make mistakes. Yes, you might fumble over words, but as you can see, I'm willing to own it. I'm willing to show up here. And, I'm a few pounds overweight than I used to be because of the menopause, but I own all of these things. I know that unless I am willing to own all of who I am, and I'm willing to go on stages or go on TV or radio or have my photo taken. Years ago, I was not willing to have my photo taken. Me doing this a few years ago, not happening. I was just hiding behind books and radio where no one could see me. And then it was like, okay, well, if I really want my business to succeed and I really want to achieve everything that I say I do, I got to switch. I got to switch it. I got to take everything to a whole new level. And that's why I mean, establish yourself as a leader, because that is one of the biggest things you need to do. And when you're doing it, you will be able to present all of the different views and you'll be able to handle them. You'll be able to hold space for them. You'll be able to say, yes, I understand that this is going on in our sector or our industry or, in our gender. This is happening to women. Yes, we are calling this out. Yes, we're going to whistleblow or we're going to expose the corruption or the injustices. You've got to be able to handle all the things that are going to come at you about the subject that you're writing about and that your co-authors are writing about. Some of it is going to be traumatic, but you've got to be able to lead your way through that. You need to surround yourself with other people who are going to hold space for you. I mean, me personally, I have my dog. I also go for walks a lot. And I have some very dear friends who work in the coaching field or the healing field. And so I'll be able to draw on a lot of their resources and speak with them and go for long, long walks or just go out sailing. We have to find that space for ourselves so that we can hold and represent all of these different aspects of the books and the subjects that we're writing about. Because when we do that, the other people's voices in the books and all the readers that are buying your book for a reason, they will feel heard. Because if you're just writing this book but only going to represent your own viewpoint, it's a bit arrogant. And let's be honest, really is. But it's also really short-sighted. How are you going to show up as a leader if you're not willing to hear and acknowledge other people's points of view? It doesn't matter whether you agree with them. It doesn't matter whether that's for you in your life path. We have to accept people where they're at. And that can be really hard. Trust me, I know. I mean, Mel Robbins, let them. That, I used to say, them, not let them. So I had a bit of a shift going on. And this thing, when you let go of controlling a situation and being resentful of other people and their viewpoints and thinking everybody else is wrong, just because you don't believe it or you don't understand it doesn't mean to say it's not true for other people. And that is where you're going to leverage your leadership. And one of the things that is really powerful is you never know who's going to get their hands on this book that you're writing. Your co-authors are going to show up and are going to have people watching them that not even they know about. None of us know who's watching. I had a message from someone the other day. I didn't even know they were following me. Beautiful message. I was like, oh, wow, thank you. And it's those things that really keep you going. And you're just like, yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing a good job. I am inspiring people. I am encouraging people just to show up as themselves, to actually put pen to paper, write that book, go after their goals, overcome and not be a victim. And that's what it's all about. It's about elevating other people. And by using the voices in your anthology from your co-authors and amplifying their voices and their stories, you get to be seen as somebody who can be at peace with other people as they are, that you come across as accepting, not tolerating like the British, but accepting. You know, we accept that everybody is different and we can still elevate and celebrate them. We may not agree with them, but we still respect them. And that's really, really important. You've got to allow the others to have their voice in the anthology, because if all you're trying to do is drown them out, that's not good. You'll notice if you've ever read any of my anthologies, whenever I receive them or I receive a book that I'm editing for on behalf of a client, you'll notice that they all sound quite different, because that's because I'm honoring the voices and the colloquialisms and the regional phrases. I know they're similar to colloquialisms. God, I have to get my teeth in then. But when you allow their voices to shine and their personalities to come through, that lends a whole other piece of magic. There are phrases that I use and people go, "Are you from this part of Britain?" And I'll be like, "Yup." Or I'll say things and people go, "Oh, you're British." When I was traveling, some people thought I was from Australia. When some people thought I was from New Zealand. The Americans say, "Well, like, oh my God, you've been to Canada." And, this is the thing I do because I've traveled so many places and I've learned so many different languages. I have that subtle nuance of understanding why it's so important that that person's voice is heard in their writing, not just having their story in the book, but allowing their voice to come through. And that's one of the things you'll find with a lot of the bigger publishers. They have an imprint, they have a voice, they have a style, and that is how it's going to be. So every single one of their authors sound the same. You're not going to find that with DBI. We honor the voice. As I mentioned at the very beginning about what we're going to be talking about, is about that reference point, and you being the person leading it. If you are coming across as rude, antagonistic, aggressive, or dismissive of other people, obnoxious, that's the tone you're going to set for everybody else. And that's not really cool. And one of the things that we have to be very, very careful of is how we are. I see this quite a bit where people are dismissive of others. And one of the things that someone said, "Oh, but you don't like other people. You don't like other people's style of books." I'm like, no, I'm a book snob. I like a nicely typeset book. I like a nicely designed cover. I like it when people have paid attention. For example, I've met a couple of people in person, obviously a couple. Um, I've just said that. I've met a couple of people where they've got millions and then they've given me a book that they've done. And I don't want to do business with them because I am a book snob. And I own it. I'm also a coffee snob. I'm also a chocolate snob. I like certain things a certain way. If you've got millions and you're producing a book that's not typeset, that's not edited, that has got a really crappy picture on the front and really tacky, horrible paper, what are you doing? Like, you might be selling the book at the back of the room or people on your course, but have some respect for the reader, because what you're actually saying to them, that their time, that their senses, like, we have to hold your book, we have to read it, we have to experience that book. And if you are not going to set the tone of the book of the journey that they're going to experience with your book and their learning process in a respectful manner, then why should they buy from you? Why should they respect you? I was reading a book recently, and this woman was going on about how, turn up on time for meetings, dress appropriately, communicate effectively. And then I open her book. I'm like, you haven't even typeset it, love. You haven't even checked for errors. And I know that myself, my journey as an author, and I look at some of my earlier books, I've gone, you know what, I need to revisit them. And I need to rewrite them. And because things have elevated, I've been asked a lot of questions that weren't covered, and I could be doing this for the rest of my life, and I'm okay to do that. But I've realized that what I started out doing is no longer the standard I hold myself to. So it's about revisiting those books and republishing them and just giving them that extra little bit of magic. And this is the thing, when you're working with your fellow co-authors, you know, let them know about your idea and the vision that you have for this book, for the standards that you're holding yourself and the book to. Because when you do that, you're then holding them to that standard. Now, that might be a standard they're already used to, but it might be, and this is the beautiful thing about working on an anthology with other people, is that you might be helping other people to have the courage and the confidence to hold their standards that little bit higher. I know I've worked with people who, you know, they would never have imagined becoming an author or being part of an anthology. But we've gone, yeah, no, your story matters. We want your story. Would you be willing? And they're like, well, yeah. And they're like, gosh, I get to work on that book. And it's a really big thing for them. So if you've got this dismissive attitude, and you're not setting the tone of quality and of respect and inclusion, then that's going to ripple effect out. And because of you, the way in which you treat your co-authors, and the standards that you're holding them to, there is a way of doing it. And, you know, you can actually say to them, I need time. I mean, I remember working on a book recently where I needed headspace. I was dealing with a lot in my own personal life. And there was a lot of chatter going on. I was like, I just need space. I need a timeout. Can we not, unless it's related to the book, can we just keep all of the other the side conversations to a minimum just at this point? I have the right to ask for that because of where, you know, I'm the one leading the book. It's still inclusive, everyone still feels safe, but someone didn't. And it wasn't a reflection of me, it was a reflection of this person not having any boundaries themselves and not understanding other people's boundaries. And that's okay because that's where that person was. And when we're doing these books, we've got to make sure that we're doing our best to make sure everybody's inclusive and that everybody feels safe. And if we're doing that, but that person still doesn't, that's more a reflection of where they're at or what they need to deal with than what it is about you. But it's making sure that the guidelines are set out at the very beginning, how you're going to work together, the roles you're going to play. Someone might be really good at marketing. Someone might be good at public speaking. One of you might be really great at illustrations. One of you might be really good at, you know, connecting the dots in the background. Bring all of your skills together, make it all inclusive, but make sure that everybody knows what's what. Have your contracts set out effectively. And the reason why I mention this is because, yes, it's curated by you, but are you going to own the copyright of all of the other chapters, or are you going to allow your co-authors to own the copyright of their contribution? Now, when my ladies, when those who join me for an anthology, I don't, as a publisher, I don't keep the copyright. The copyright belongs to my clients. We are a guardian of the copyright at DBI Publishing. We will help the client, we will protect them, and we will guide them as best as we can. Obviously, copyright law changes quite quickly, so you need to, if there are any copyright issues, make sure you've got a copyright lawyer on hand or that they've got one themselves. Include copyright references within the clauses in the contracts, and actually make sure that when you send the contract that people actually know where you know, where they can get help and references and things like that. Because if you are like me and you want to use your chapter in other people's books, in the book that you've contributed to in different way, you want to give it as a free giveaway. Ulrika, who was in Owning Our Ovaries and in My Potent Power of Menopause, she has used the chapter that she's written in both of those books as a free giveaway on the Summit series. I know other people who have developed anthologies who will not allow the co-authors to use any of the content from in the book. They own the copyright. They don't want it dismantling, and they don't want the book being shared. They want it's all about them. I'm not like that. You know, that you wrote it, you own the copyright, we'll guard it for you. If you want to use it, go use it. But these are the standards that we expect of you. And we provide the chapter, and we do it as a polished PDF with watermarks on the front cover. So people can still see the book, they still see a high quality. But what we also do is we have all of the media inquiries come to my email. And because we need that point of reference, you are leading this. It is about having all of the direct. So if somebody wants to speak to HJ, or someone wants to speak to Amanda, or someone wants to speak to Kate, or they want to speak to someone else in the like Ben or Steve, or then I am that point of reference because I'm the publisher. I'm also the lead author, or I curated it with Steve, or I wrote the foreword. But as a publisher, I will be that center point of contact. But also, even if I'm not publishing it, but I was leading it, well, it would depend on who's publishing it, really. I can only really speak from the fact that I am the publisher and I do the curation, and I've worked with other people on curating there. But as a publisher, I would normally give the reference point to the person who curated the anthology, or the author, because then they are dealing with that themselves. Because then they can say yes or no, but it also allows them to have a level of control. If the author or the curator said, actually, we'd rather you handle all the media inquiries, then fine, we can do that. Again, it's making sure everything is laid out at the very beginning. Because when you OPP is other people's platforms, because when you show up on other people's platforms, you don't know what sometimes you're walking into. This person has shared their story with you, their expertise with you. The best thing to do is honor that. Now, I might actually be, preaching to the choir here, and, telling some of you how to suck eggs, to use two very cliche sayings. But it is about respect. It is about understanding the other people have built this network. It's like if you make a referral to someone and that person you've made the referral to doesn't follow up, they don't respond, or they're rude to people, that reflects badly on you. If you turn up late, to a meeting that somebody has set up for you, that really looks bad on you. So it's about making sure that you establish yourself respectfully and kindly, and with grace, because you've been given the opportunity to appear on those other people's platforms. And that's really, really, for me, that's a fundamental thing. You have to show up with the best of integrity, and the absolute, like, you have to show up with gratitude, because not everybody is going to recommend you. Not everybody is willing for you to succeed. Trust me, I know that there are lots of people that are waiting for the day that I fail. And you know what? If I do, I just pick myself up and I'll start again. Because, I've got so far, and it's going to be easy for me to start again. I'm not going to fail. But if I do, that's okay. I have lessons I've learned. People will be waiting for you to fail, though. Trust me. Now I've put here, I mean, I've already covered this, moving from an anthology to use an anthology to move from expert to key person of influence. But it was mainly looking this next point about centering yourself, your ego, and centering yourself energetically. I've not really done the bullet points very well there, have I? And this is what I mean about the last thing, when you go onto other people's platforms, they have trusted you. And if you go on there with a very big ego and you aren't centered in, the grace and the gratitude, and knowing that it's a privilege to be invited, then your energy is all off. And it's always good to actually find out who it is that you're going to be speaking with, what kind of style they have, do your research, find out from the person introducing you, or whose platform you're being featured on, how does this person like to work? How did you build your relationship? Where did you meet? How important is this relationship to you? What is it you're looking to build with them? Because when you go in from that point of view, then you can help them build their own leadership. You can help celebrate them. You can help position them in a much stronger place, than if you go in there and you're just full of ego and it's all about yourself. Um, and it's just not energetically nice. It's a really quite gnarly energy. Um, but also think about how you're not just representing them and yourself, but representing your industry, but also the person whose platform you're appearing on. How are you representing them? Because if they've invited you on and you show up being a bit of a bitch, or you're a bit you're disrespectful, you haven't turned up on time, you're not listening, you're talking over them. Um, if you're okay, when I say talking over them, the reason why I'm backtracking on that is because I know what it's like to be in the Arab world where we're all talking at once, and in Latin America we all talk at once, and in Italy we all talk at once. We're all still listening, but we're all talking at once. And but it's about that energy and that respect factor, and which aspects of the subjects that you've written about or that you've all written about, how are you threading those all in to the person's platform that you're appearing on, and how are you looking at the threads of the story throughout each of the chapters? How are you bringing all of those together? How are you amplifying those in the marketing? How are you amplifying those into where you want to be? Is there that red thread that you've requested throughout each of the chapters because you want to be in that network? You want to be doing that kind of work. You want to elevate yourself to that next level of KPI, or that next level. You want to develop that next level of expertise. The anthology is that next level, is the first level. And then once you've actually learned from all of the people that you've co-authored with, and then that's taking you to the second, third, and fourth levels, you've really got to have a great strategy in mind for this. And understanding why you've chosen these individuals to write about these subjects. How are they, are they a leader in their field or in that particular subject, which you are then reflective glory, guilty by association, or not so guilty. And it's that combined knowledge base that you've got, and that kudos that you can give each other, and what kind of assets are you creating for each other. Like I said, Ulrika has the chapter that she wrote in both of the books that we've worked on together, and she uses those on summits as free giveaways. And because she's doing that, what that then does is the summits that she's on, or the guests events that she's speaking on and she's giving away, then what's happening is then that summit and that conference is then promoting the book. It's not just promoting Ulrika, but it's promoting the book, and then it's promoting all the other ladies that are in the books with us. It's promoting me, and if I'm there and I'm doing a disservice to Ulrika, which I would never do, not intentionally, then the positioning starts to, that we have been given, we start to abuse that. These social proof assets that we've got, me showing up here, this is a social proof. This is on the internet. This is on YouTube. This is out on, Meta. This is there. It's on my website. I think it's on my website. But all of these assets that we create, they are going along to give credibility. And when you're becoming a key person of influence, like I said, I've got about 20 years worth of assets now online. And it really does build that credibility, and people go, well, actually she's been around a long time, look at what she's done, look at how her journey, what she was in this, and she's talking about this, and she's talking about this. Okay, this woman knows a lot of things about a lot of things. And that's the thing, they all tie in so beautifully together. What are they, and how are you allowing or supporting the others in your anthology to have these assets to actually help build their social proof, help them become the key person of influence? How can people find you? That when people click on any of the web links, they're going to be able to be taken to a website. They're going to be taken to the podcast host, who still has contact details with me. My email address is still the same. My website address is really easy. It's got a contact form on there. You know, people can find me on LinkedIn, on Meta, and YouTube. You know, there is ways to contact me, and that's the thing. You've got to be able to have that there, and make sure that the other ladies, or the other co-author, I'm saying ladies, so I've only just done owning our ovaries, but you know, you need to be able to make sure that everybody is contactable on their terms. So, for example, Sarah probably doesn't want a lot of people contacting her. You know, she only wants these people contacting her. So they come through me. I filter things for Sarah because I know that that's what she wants. Um, and it is about evolving. It is about lifting everybody else up professionally, and, you know, helping them to create this ecosystem. And, you know, because on the anthologies, one of the best things that I feel that you can do for people in the book is give them a bio at the beginning of their chapter, and give people, you know, a couple of I call them reflection pages after each chapter, so people can make a note of what it was that they learned from that individual. What is it that in their story or their expertise can they really take away? What are the action points? But at the beginning of the chapter, give them a bio, and if they want to be contacted, let people see their contact details, let people see their website address, give them a little bit about what it is that they're doing, and that way you're helping people. So for example, with Sarah, she is doing second chance recruitment. So she is employing people. She's created a recruitment company so that people that have been in prison can actually then go and work through, find work through her recruitment company, because there's still a lot of bias about people who have been inside prisons. You know, whether they were falsely arrested, whether they committed a small crime or a heinous crime. You know, how long ago was it? What were the circumstances? None of us know. None of us know. But, you know, these people deserve a second chance. So Sarah has created second chance recruitment, helping people get jobs, mainly in the construction industry. And so now people who read that, they're like, oh, okay, so that's great. We've now got the book, and, you know, the book is now known within the construction industry. So that's a new area of the ecosystem. But when we're also looking at all the different assets that we're creating, how are they all feeding into one another? How are we supporting, you know, each other's ecosystem? Now, for example, with the DBI ecosystem, we have the coaching, we have the academy, we have the retail store, we have the publishing. We're soon going to have properties and productions. You know, we've got a whole range of things that people can buy from us and be where we can be of service to people. That's an ecosystem, and each of them feeds into each other. This is what I mean about know your vision. And know what it is that you want to achieve, and how can you achieve that in lots of different ways that actually make it easy, and how everything feeds into one another, making it easier for you to work. It might confuse some people who are overthinking it, but your vision doesn't actually have to make sense to other people, as long as the people that you're trying to reach, actually you reach them. Then I was saying about how you currently seen and revered in your own networks, knowing who you are and what people think of you, and how people refer you, because they might not understand your vision, and they might go, oh, well, she's gone retail, she's gone into mugs. Yeah, because what do you do when you're a reader? You read a book and you've got a mug of cocoa or coffee or a cup of tea, you might have a glass of wine. You know, and oh, okay, so now you've got an academy. Well, what, aren't you writing books anymore? Yeah, I'm writing courses on helping people write books. I'm also writing courses and delivering workshops and trainings that help people deal with the different aspects of becoming an author. I've got an academy. I want to reach as many people as possible. Me continuing to do one-on-one coaching is not going to help me scale the business. And then we've got productions, which is where we're making films and documentaries of all the books. Plus, we've got the DBI properties, where we're actually hosting author retreats, and, you know, so on and so forth. And this is what I mean about an ecosystem. And it doesn't have to make sense to other people, but you have to know your vision and how you are seen, because you could go in all guns blazing and all happy, and then, you know, millions of followers, and then where have you gone the next day? Softly, softly catch your monkey, as one of my greatest mentors ever once told me. And, you know, and it might seem like a sidestep into a new arena for other people, but as long as it makes sense, as long as what you're doing is expanding the brand. Now, those of you who follow Jade Hollow Cooper, you'll notice that, you know, she's got horse boxes, she's got coffee, she's got clothing, you know, and there's something new that she's going to bring out. She's brought out journals and yeah, she's just brought out journals, very beautiful journals. But people say, oh, you know, niche down. She's not niching down, but she's expanding that brand. And that's what I was want you to realize, you know, when you sidestepping into a new arena, where is that going to be? You know, most people know her through the races, you know, but, you know, countryside living in the Cotswolds. But she's still a very humble person. She's still very much, you know, going into her garden. She's still very much praising and being grateful to everybody. She could be an arrogant bitch to a lot of people, you know, but you know, that's not who she is. And I doubt very much that she would, you know, be attracting the kind of people she is. But some people might think that because, you know, of the success of her business. And they might say, well, yeah, well, she comes from money, blah, blah, blah. It's all because of her husband. But no, she has worked and hustled her ass off. You know, she has been there dragging her suitcase to all of these events, you know, and she started off just selling mini skirts at the badminton horse trials, and she's built it up into this business. But she's still very humble and grateful for everything. You can see this by the way she talks to people, and how grateful she is when she's interviewing people. And you only have to read the articles about her. Being willing to know that you don't know everything. You know just enough to get by. The reason I say this is I might have over 20,000 deep blue ocean miles, some of which, well, I say 20,000 ocean miles. Some of that is ocean sailing, some of it is racing, some of it is just coastal. But each boat that I get on, I say to the skipper, just pretend I don't know anything. Because each boat is rigged differently. Each boat is has got a different ballast. You know, the way in which it sits in the water, the way in which the crew work together, the winches that, you know, they're different. Like the navionics is going to be different, or the AIS system. You know, they're all going to be different systems. So pretend you know nothing, or come at it that you know nothing. When I go to a new country, I don't perceive anything. I know nothing about that country. I might know bits, but until I get to that new country, I'm going with a blank canvas, because the rest is just stuff that other people have told me, or that I've learned, or I've been taught. And I have been to enough countries now to realize that we don't know anything about any other country until we've gone there and we've lived with the locals and we've eaten with them, we've eaten from the food trucks, and we've gone local, not tourist, local. When you do that, then you get to know the country and the people. So that's what I mean but you know nothing but just enough to get by. Your inner circle and your team dynamics are also going to change. You know, when you're going out into these different ecosystems or into these different networks, you're also going to learn that how the person is within your anthology. When you are the one that's in their network, their energy may change, they may shift, they may be the person of influence in their field, and you know nothing. And so it's about really respecting that person then on a whole new level, and learning from them, and putting your ego aside, you know, and looking at how the inner circle of the book, and the people that surround you in your business, making sure everybody is there to support one another. Again, it might seem like I'm telling you how to suck eggs, but you probably wouldn't be surprised the amount of people that think they know everything. And you know, I know a lot about a lot, and some people think I know a lot. I think I know everything. I know nothing. What is it, that phrase? The more you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And that's the thing. And it's about creating this space of curiosity, and creating these really positive, curious team dynamics, and actually knowing that people might be want close access to you once you've written these anthologies. But how are you protecting yourself? How are you protecting your energy? How are you protecting your workload? How are you protecting the quality of your work? Because if you are by one of your co-authors, if you are then put onto a stage whether it's a podcast, an actual physical stage, TV, radio, what have you, or at a conference, and then your career explodes. How are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle that with your team? Are the team going to be able to step up for you? Are they people who generate ideas, or are they people that just need to be told everything and that cause drama every second step? We had a conversation with my team earlier. Are we A kind of people, B people, or C people? We don't want C people. And thank you to Louise for bringing that analogy to me earlier in the week and reminding me of that. But again, proximity pricing. You're not going to be hanging out with Matthew McConaughey, or getting him to come and play, appear in your film, or Julia Roberts to appear in your film for a few £100. You're going to be paying them millions of dollars. And it's about understanding that once you grow in your leadership and in your sphere of influence, your prices go up. And it's not about bending over backwards and reducing your prices just so that everybody can have access to you. It's about making sure that you price things at a rate with the knowledge that they're getting. I give a lot away in these seminars. These are free. So if I'm giving you all of this away for free, imagine what it's like working with me and the value you get with working with me. I know that we're coming close to the end of this, so I've just got 2 more slides to do. Again, respecting your time. What you're doing when you're building these anthologies, like I said, you've got these people, you've chosen them, they've got their own sphere of influences, they've got their own platforms, their own networks, but what you're doing within your anthology, and I mentioned it a few minutes ago about the thread that's following through in all of the chapters, you are curating the thinking that goes into this book. And what you put out there, this is going to either improve, increase, or decrease your credibility. Sometimes it can shoot you totally in the foot. Now, there was a review that we had for the menopause book. This person gave us a 1 out of 5 because it's full of hogwash. Spiritual woo-woo. And what was really interesting is that if you read Clarissa's chapter and you read Kate and Neil's chapter in the menopause book, you'll know that it's not spiritual woo-woo. If you read my chapter, I'm not talking about spirituality. Now, Sue's chapter was about energy healing, and it was a really beautiful thing. And then Maggie talked about, Ayurvedic foods, Ayurvedic healing. But it was these 2 chapters out of the 11 in the whole book that this person had taken, offense to and given us a 1 out of 5 on their Amazon. And I was just like, thanks for that, because now what this person has done is actually invited people who are interested in Ayurvedic and into energy healing. They now know that there's a menopause book out there. It's not all science. It's not all pushing HRT. We gave a very balanced view of menopause throughout the world, throughout the different generations, pre-menopause, post-menopause, very different cultures and ways of thinking about the women's body, and how we evolve and transform. But again, it's like looking at how we promote the different stories and we promote the different ideas and how we link them all together, because it's about respecting the journey of those. Because like I said, if you're going to put somebody, I mean, we set Clarissa at the very beginning of our Potent Power of Menopause book because Clarissa has, the most listened to podcast on menopause. This is a woman who I highly respect. She I just have so much respect for her, her learnings, and what she knows about biology of the human form, and the way in which she puts everything together. She's very considered. And then you came in with mine, and so it was a very different, because some people might think that her style of writing is really quite serious, and then you've got mine's very jokey, but it was a very nice break between that, and it took the readers on a journey, and it actually showed you, if you read the chapters, it shows you those links. you know, the critical analysis of everything that's going on in the world. And, you know, and one of the things I did do was look at how we could balance those voices, but play to the rhetoric and actually make fun of the narratives that are out there. And you know, because it's not just about analyzing the content in the book, it's about analyzing the marketplace, analyzing the narratives, the agendas, the political scene, um, you know, and what's actually going on within society. And it's about making sure that when you're looking at the chapters and you're analyzing them, that you start to notice them yourself. What can we use in marketing? What can we use to actually get this message home? What is what are the colors that we're going to use in the artwork? What kind of imagery and fonts are we going to use? Again, it's all about layering the messages through the typeface, through the font hierarchy, the way in which you're laying out the book. It's not just about the stories, it's about the layering of all those messages. Like I said, with Owning Our Ovaries, we gave a nod to the suffragettes with the colors. We gave a nod to the fact that we're all connected in this cosmos and this universe. And then we've got the strength of the woman with the warrior women with their swords in the days of old, but the softness of the, you know, the feathers coming around the wings, you know, for the arms and for the fallopian tubes. And again, it's all of this subliminal messaging that you want to be bringing out into the story and respecting the reader. Because if you are choosing a font that's really hard to read, or you're not double spacing, or you're single spacing, you know, what kind of sizing of the font are you using? What kind of margins are you using? If your book is about the environment, how many pages are left blank? And one of the things that we're trying to do here at DBI Publishing is make sure we have as few empty pages as possible. And we did try to put the title page on another on the left page, and it was just like, no, that's too jarring. That's yeah, we can't do that. So we just switch things around, so that, you know, yes, we're saving the planet. Yes, the margins are a little bit smaller, and because we want to make sure that we are using the least amount of paper, but from sustainable sources as possible. So again, it's about respecting the reader and their readability. And like I said before, you know, what does the paper feel like? You know, what does the fold, you know, when you're reading it? I mean, this book I've just picked up, I'm not going to show you what it is, but there's just so much wasted white space. You know, the margins are massive. The font is quite small. There's actually there's three different fonts on this. And you know, it is, I wouldn't have typeset it this way, but then, you know, I used to do the plain English and the crystal thinking, the plain English campaign, you know, and I've looked psychologically at the fonts and the colors that are used and the way things are laid out, because again, it's about looking at the reader experience, and how nice it feels for people. And I've got here beyond the book launch, you know, how are you showing up for your co-authors? I've mentioned, you know, the assets that you create, allowing people like Ulrika to have the chapters for the summits. You know, are you still getting together? Are you still communicating? Did you create a community of co-authors, or were you just there for that project together and never to speak to each other again? How are you supporting? Now we've got two ladies from the Owning Our Ovaries that are, Amanda's just had a baby. Neve is pregnant at this point. It's the 12th of March. And so now I have gone into almost granny mode. And I'm sending, oh, this is a really good tip. You know, I'm finding tips and sending them. You might want to think about that, because we've become a close-knit sisterhood. You know, and they're on a different journey now. I'm supporting them, encouraging them. And likewise, they're encouraging me and they're supporting me. We've got a really lovely sisterhood that we've created. And sometimes it's not about doing an anthology, you know, for expertise and to elevate your career. It's about bringing women together that you want to be connected with, or it's about bringing people together that you want to be connected with. It's about bringing friendships together. And I absolutely love the women in this latest book. I really do. I'm so grateful to them. And this is the thing, these are some of the lessons that you will learn, that you know, that sometimes the people you bring together for the book end up being the biggest gifts for you personally. And it's about building on those. Um, and I've written here, choose a theme, signaling leadership, not trends. So this is just wrapping up, making sure that it's evergreen and a legacy building for all. Think of the human condition in every area of the expertise. And what I mean by that is when you focus on the human condition in every area, it makes it evergreen. It makes it a legacy piece because the human condition doesn't really change that much. Whereas if you're just focusing on, let's say, someone's writing a book and it's about the introduction of AI. Well, that's going to be out of date. It's probably already out of date. Or how to do this. And it's like, well, if you're just doing, how to use a printer, well, what kind of printer? Uh, like how to change how, I don't know. I'm trying to think of things that are dated now. You can't jumpstart a car a lot these days because they're all encased engines. I'm that person. I want to see the engine. I want to be able to touch and replace bits and fix the engine because I've learned to fix engines while I'm sailing around the world. I want to be able to fix my car by the side of the road. I want to be able to change the tire. I need to know where the bits are. Stop encasing it so that I have to get a specialist person because I know how to do it. And again, be human, be real, be you. And just think globally because, like I said earlier, once that book goes on sale, it is going global. And consider the days in which you're doing it because it might be International Women's Day. It might be, it might be I saw the other day there was an International Day of the Squirrel. So, if you're talking about nuts and forestry, you might want to launch it on International Day of the Squirrel. Honestly, there are so many international days out there that you're not going to be lost. You might find it fascinating and you might go, really? We've got an International Day of the Toilet? Wow, interesting. What's that going to be about? Sewage pollution? Maybe. Again, see how the brain works. But again, look at the partner organizations that your book can help you connect with. Look at how, the people that are in your anthology, how you can bring each other together. That are your businesses, something that you could partner with beyond the book. Is it something that, for example, the menopause book, is there a charity? I'm speaking to a lady at the moment about, being the charity for the menopause book. At the end of this year, will I continue to donate all the royalties from owning our ovaries to endometriosis? Or am I going to choose a new charity? Again, it's about looking at, partnering organizations and, are you going to be doing spin-offs such as summits? Are you going to be organizing lunches, conferences together? But most importantly, with an anthology, you might be leading it, you might be curating it, but how are you developing the other leaders and the new leaders within your subject matter and within your book? Because there are some people who are not leaders, but their stories are really important. Are you willing to include them, even if they have no experience, no business, no 1 million followers or 10,000 followers on LinkedIn or however many, just because they don't have the vanity metrics, are you going to include them or exclude them? Because remember, when we're not including, by default, we're excluding. So look at how you're developing new leaders with your anthology. And thank you so much for being here. I know I've thrown a lot at you today. And there's a lot of information in here, but this is what you get when you join the DBI ecosystem. You get great value and a lot of knowledge. And these are my freebies. So until next week, week 3, thank you. Ciao for now.